the Browns went into the 2016 draft, they had the number 2 pick at the start of the draft. The Browns at that time were looking at different quarterbacks, and they had a guy named Jarod-Goff from California. He was their number 1 guy on their board, their top quarterback in the draft. In my book, Browns Blues, what I wrote about was, why didn't the Browns draft Carson-Wentz? Part of it is they fell in love with Jarod-Goff. For a while, they thought Goff would be available to them with the number 2 pick. Instead, what happened is the number 1 pick was owned by Tennessee. Tennessee had a quarterback, but Tennessee traded that pick to the Los Angeles Rams. And they took Jarod-Goff. Goff was the one guy that the analytics people with the Browns agreed on, the coaching staff, Hugh Jackson and others agreed on, the scouts agreed on. They all agreed Jarod-Goff was their guy. Now, what about taking Carson-Wentz at number 2? This is where things went haywire, because Hugh Jackson, of all the people there, liked Carson-Wentz the most. At the time, Carson-Wentz played at North Dakota State. It wasn't even a Division 1A school. It's the old 1AA. North Dakota State plays schools like James Madison and plays Youngstown State. In other words, they're in that level right below. He was 23 years old. He'd been there for 5 years. The analytics people didn't know what to make of him. They couldn't find a quarterback quite like him that was successful in the NFL that had been that long at what amounts to a 1AA school. Jackson sort of liked him but didn't love him. Of course, now Hugh Jackson's done a lot of revisionist history, but that's the fact. So then the Browns thought, the Sashi Brown was running it. We got to pile up draft picks, pile up draft picks. So they ended up taking that number 2 pick, and they made not 1 but 2 trades. Philadelphia traded up to number 2. Philadelphia, by the way, was the only serious bidder on that 2nd pick for Wentz. And Wentz went on with Philadelphia to lead them to a Super Bowl. And meanwhile, here's where it really fell apart for the Browns. And I write about this in my book, all the different who liked what quarterbacks and things. But where they really blew it, in addition to, say, not taking Wentz, is the pick they came up with was Corey-Coleman. Oh my goodness, Corey-Coleman. Number 1 receiver they ranked in the draft. They loved him. They took him. See, if Corey-Coleman had become a Pro Bowl receiver, at least the Browns could say, okay, we missed on Wentz, but we did get a Pro Bowl receiver. But by 2018, not only was Corey-Coleman gone from the Browns, he even traded to Buffalo and cut by Buffalo, and New England had him, and basically he was just kind of tossed away. He couldn't play at all. Now, would Wentz has been as good with Cleveland as with Philadelphia? Probably not. The 3 previous years before Wentz went to Philadelphia, Philadelphia was a 500 team. So he went where there was some pretty good talent. And the Browns felt if we didn't have some talent around, our quarterback was going to struggle. But when you go back and look at it, actually they were going to take Jarod-Goff. They passed on Carson-Wentz. So the Browns, they should have taken Jarod-Goff, or they wanted to, and they would have, but they didn't. They could have taken Carson-Wentz, passed on him, piled up all these picks, but where they really blew it was on Corey-Coleman and what a dismal failure he was. In my book, Browns Blues, I talk a lot about different drafts, what went right, what went wrong, and that was one of the most fascinating chapters for me to write.